Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story School. Today, we'll explore how vulnerability can transform our lives and why embracing it might be the key to living a fulfilled, connected, and authentic life. We'll also dive into the powerful research of Brené Brown, a woman who dedicated her life to studying vulnerability, shame, and human connection. Have you ever felt like showing your true self would make you weak? Or that admitting your imperfections would cause others to judge you? What if I told you that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but one of the greatest sources of strength? Brené's work has changed the way we view vulnerability, and I'm here to take you on a journey through her transformative insights. Brené Brown's journey into the research of vulnerability began in a very personal way. As a social work professor and researcher, she started by investigating human emotions, particularly shame. Little did she know, her work would not only redefine the way we understand vulnerability, but it would also lead her to confront her own fears. In her early studies, she found that shame was a major obstacle to human connection and that vulnerability, often seen as a weakness, was at the heart of courage, creativity, and innovation. Brené's interest in these topics wasn't born out of idle curiosity. It stemmed from a deep desire to understand the emotional underpinnings that shape human behavior. She began her research with a simple but profound question. What does it mean to truly connect with another person? This inquiry led her to uncover a universal truth: that connection is the foundation of a meaningful life. However, she quickly discovered a significant barrier to this connection: shame. Shame, as Brené defines it, is the intensely painful feeling of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. It is an emotion that thrives in silence and secrecy, preventing people from being their authentic selves. One pivotal moment in her career came during a lecture when she posed a challenging question to her audience. What would happen if we embraced our imperfections and allowed ourselves to be vulnerable with others? The room fell silent. The mere idea of embracing vulnerability struck a chord of fear among the attendees. For many, vulnerability was synonymous with weakness, a state to be avoided at all costs. But for Brené, this fear only fueled her determination to delve deeper. She wanted to uncover why vulnerability was so universally feared and whether it might hold the key to a more authentic and connected way of living. Through her meticulous research, Brené came to a groundbreaking realization. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it is the birthplace of courage, creativity, and innovation. She found that the very emotions we try to suppress, fear, shame, and uncertainty, are intertwined with the feelings that bring us joy, love, and belonging. This paradox became the cornerstone of her work. She began to see vulnerability as a double-edged sword. It is where we experience our deepest fears, but it is also where we find our greatest strengths. Brené's findings were not just theoretical. They had profound implications for real life. For instance, she discovered that vulnerability is essential for building trust and intimacy in relationships. When people share their authentic selves, their struggles, fears, and imperfections, they create a space for others to do the same. This mutual exchange fosters empathy and connection, breaking down the walls that shame and fear have built. In her interviews, she often heard people describe moments of vulnerability as transformative, even if they were initially uncomfortable or painful. But Brené didn't stop at relationships. She also explored the role of vulnerability in creativity and leadership. She argued that innovation and progress are impossible without the willingness to take risks and embrace uncertainty. Whether it's an artist sharing their work with the world, a leader making a bold decision, or an individual stepping into a new challenge, vulnerability is the thread that ties these acts of courage together. By allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, We open the door to growth and discovery, both personally and professionally. Despite the profound benefits of vulnerability, Breen's research revealed that most people go to great lengths to avoid it. They armor themselves with perfectionism, numbing behaviors, or the need to control every aspect of their lives. This armor may provide a temporary sense of safety, but it comes at a cost. It isolates us from genuine connection and stifles our ability to experience joy and fulfillment. Breen often emphasizes that true strength lies not in avoiding vulnerability, but in leaning into it, in having the courage to show up and be seen, even when the outcome is uncertain. Breen's own journey of embracing vulnerability was not without challenges. As she delved deeper into her research, she realized that she, too, struggled with the very issues she was studying. Confronting her own fears of judgment and imperfection was a humbling experience, but it also gave her work an authenticity that resonated with millions. She often shares how her vulnerability became a source of strength, allowing her to connect with her audience on a deeply personal level. Her TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability, became a global phenomenon viewed by millions around the world. In it, she shares her insights with a mix of humor, humility, and profound wisdom. Her ability to translate complex research into relatable stories has made her a beacon of hope for those struggling to embrace their true selves. Breen's message is clear. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or being emotionally reckless. It's about being honest and authentic in a way that aligns with our values and fosters genuine connection. In the end, Breen's work reminds us that vulnerability is not something to be feared but celebrated. It is a powerful tool for building trust, fostering empathy, and unlocking our potential. By embracing our imperfections and allowing ourselves to be seen, we not only transform our own lives, but also create a ripple effect that inspires others to do the same. Breen's journey is a testament to the transformative power of vulnerability, a journey that continues to inspire and empower people worldwide. As Breen dove deeper into her research, she found that shame played a significant role in preventing people from embracing vulnerability. Shame, she explained, is the intense feeling that we are unworthy of love and belonging. It's the voice in our head that tells us we're not enough. Whether it's not good enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, or simply not enough in any way. Shame keeps us from being vulnerable because it tells us that if others knew our true selves, they would reject us. This feeling of unworthiness feeds our fear and stops us from being our authentic selves. Breen discovered that shame thrives in silence. It grows when we hide it, and its grip tightens when we allow it to dictate our actions. Many of her research participants shared stories of how shame had shaped their lives, making them avoid relationships, suppress emotions, or strive for perfection in the hope of proving their worth. These stories revealed a universal struggle, showing that shame is not unique to any one person or group, but is a shared human experience. In one particularly eye-opening interview, a participant described how shame kept them from pursuing their dreams. "I was so afraid of failing," they said, "that I didn't even try." This fear of failure, Breen noted, is a common manifestation of shame. It convinces us to stay within the confines of safety, avoiding risks and challenges that might expose our vulnerabilities. Yet, it is precisely in those moments of risk and uncertainty that growth and connection occur. But what if shame didn't have to control our lives? Breen's research revealed that the key to overcoming shame is vulnerability. By allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we disrupt the cycle of shame and open the door to real connection with others. Vulnerability requires us to acknowledge our imperfections and embrace our humanity. When we do this, we send a powerful message to ourselves and others. I am enough, just as I am, Breen found that the courage to be vulnerable begins with self-compassion. Instead of criticizing ourselves for our perceived shortcomings, we need to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer a friend. Self-compassion helps us counter the negative voice of shame and build the resilience needed to face life's challenges. When we stop striving for unattainable perfection and accept our flaws, we create space for growth, creativity, and genuine connection. One of the most powerful aspects of vulnerability Breen discovered is its ability to foster empathy. When we share our struggles and fears with others, we give them permission to do the same. This mutual exchange creates a bond of understanding and compassion, breaking down the walls that shame has built. Breen often refers to this as the shame resilience process, where vulnerability becomes a tool for healing and connection. In her workshops and lectures, Breen uses relatable examples to illustrate the transformative power of vulnerability. She shares stories of individuals who, despite their fears, chose to open up about their struggles and were met with support and acceptance. These stories highlight the paradox of vulnerability. While it feels risky and uncomfortable, it is also the gateway to courage, trust, and intimacy. One of Breen's most memorable quotes encapsulates this idea. Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. This courage, she argues, is the foundation of a meaningful and fulfilling life. It requires us to embrace uncertainty and accept that we cannot predict or control how others will respond to our authenticity. However, it is in these moments of uncertainty that we find true connection and belonging. Breen's research also emphasizes the importance of creating environments that support vulnerability. Whether in families, workplaces, or communities, fostering a culture of openness and empathy can help individuals feel safe enough to share their authentic selves. Leaders, in particular, play a crucial role in setting the tone for vulnerability. By modeling authenticity and encouraging open dialogue, they can inspire others to do the same and create a culture of trust and collaboration. Through her work, Breen has shown that vulnerability is not about oversharing or exposing ourselves recklessly. It's about being honest and intentional in the way we engage with others. It's about recognizing that our worth is not tied to our achievements or the approval of others, but is inherent in who we are as human beings. This shift in perspective can be life-changing, freeing us from the grip of shame and allowing us to live more authentically. As Breen often reminds her audience, the journey to embracing vulnerability is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. It requires practice, patience, and a willingness to confront our fears. But the rewards are worth it. By choosing vulnerability, we choose connection, growth, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. We choose to live a life that is rich with meaning and authenticity, a life where we are not held back by shame, but empowered by the courage to be seen. Now, you might be wondering, what are the real benefits of vulnerability? Why should we push past the discomfort of being vulnerable? Well, the gifts of vulnerability are immense. For one, vulnerability fosters deep and meaningful connections. It's the glue that binds us together. When we open up to others, share our struggles, and show our true selves, we allow others to do the same. This mutual exchange creates empathy, understanding, and compassion, strengthening the bonds that tie us to one another. Vulnerability is also a catalyst for trust. When we reveal our true selves, we signal to others that we trust them with our feelings and experiences. This act often prompts a reciprocal response, deepening relationships and creating an environment where openness and authenticity thrive. In families, friendships, and even workplaces, vulnerability paves the way for stronger, more resilient connections. Moreover, Vulnerability allows for growth and creativity. Brené Brown argues that when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for innovation and learning. Taking risks, whether it's sharing an idea, asking for help, or admitting a mistake, requires courage, but it's in these moments of uncertainty that we unlock our potential. By embracing vulnerability, we challenge the fear of failure that often holds us back. Instead of fixating on the possibility of rejection or criticism, we focus on the opportunities for growth and discovery. Whether in our personal lives, creative pursuits, or professional endeavors, vulnerability drives progress and encourages bold, new ideas. Brené's research also highlights the role of vulnerability in resilience. She emphasizes that resilience is not about avoiding challenges, but about facing them head-on with honesty and self-compassion. When we embrace our imperfections and mistakes with kindness, we cultivate the strength to navigate life's ups and downs. Resilient individuals are not those who avoid vulnerability, but those who lean into it, understanding that their worth is not diminished by setbacks or failures. One of the most powerful lessons from Brené's work is the idea that vulnerability is essential for self-compassion. To truly accept ourselves, we must confront our fears and imperfections. Self-compassion involves treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we extend to others. It means recognizing that we are not defined by our shortcomings and allowing ourselves the grace to be human. Brené often reminds her audience that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to our courage and authenticity. The benefits of vulnerability extend beyond personal growth and relationships. In professional settings, vulnerability can transform the way teams work together. Leaders who embrace vulnerability inspire trust and collaboration among their teams. By admitting their own uncertainties and encouraging open communication, they create a culture where innovation and creativity can flourish. Employees who feel safe enough to express their ideas and take risks are more likely to contribute meaningfully, driving the success of the organization. Brené also explores the connection between vulnerability and courage. Courage, she explains, is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Vulnerability and courage go hand in hand, because being vulnerable often means stepping into the unknown. Whether it's sharing a deeply personal story, pursuing a dream, or admitting a mistake, acts of vulnerability require bravery. Brené's research shows that individuals who practice vulnerability consistently develop greater emotional strength and confidence over time. For many, the journey to embracing vulnerability begins with small, intentional steps. It might mean opening up to a trusted friend, expressing an opinion in a meeting, or trying something new despite the risk of failure. These seemingly small acts can have a profound impact, gradually building our capacity for vulnerability and reshaping our relationships and self-perception. Brené also emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries in vulnerability. While sharing our true selves is essential, it's equally important to do so with people who have earned our trust. Vulnerability doesn't mean sharing everything with everyone. It means being selective and intentional about when and with whom we choose to be open. This balance ensures that our vulnerability is met with empathy and respect, rather than judgment or dismissal. Ultimately, the rewards of vulnerability are transformative. By choosing to be vulnerable, we choose authenticity over perfection, connection over isolation, and courage over fear. Brené often sums it up with one of her most impactful quotes: "To love ourselves and support each other in the process of becoming real is perhaps the greatest single act of daring." This process of becoming real, embracing our true selves, imperfections and all, is where we find the deepest sense of fulfillment and belonging. So why should we push past the discomfort of vulnerability? Because it's through vulnerability that we discover the essence of what it means to be human. It's through vulnerability that we connect, grow, and thrive. And it's through vulnerability that we find the courage to live wholeheartedly, unburdened by the fear of judgment or failure. The gifts of vulnerability are indeed immense, and they are waiting for us to claim them. So, here's the question I want to leave you with today. How can you embrace vulnerability in your own life? What would happen if you allowed yourself to be seen, to share your struggles and imperfections with others? Imagine a world where we all feel safe enough to show up as we truly are, without fear of judgment or rejection. Imagine the connections we could build, the lives we could touch, and the impact we could make. To begin embracing vulnerability, we first need to shift our perspective. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is a profound expression of strength. It requires immense courage to step into the unknown, to admit when we're not perfect, and to open ourselves up to the possibility of rejection or failure. Yet, it is in these moments of openness that we discover our true resilience and capacity for growth. Think of vulnerability as a bridge that connects us to others and to our own authentic selves. It allows us to form deeper relationships, foster empathy, and live a more fulfilling life. Brené Brown's work reminds us that vulnerability is the birthplace of courage, creativity, and authenticity. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about facing our fears and showing up anyway. Every time we take a leap of faith, whether it's speaking up in a meeting, sharing a personal story, or admitting we need help, we demonstrate courage. Creativity thrives in an environment where vulnerability is welcomed. When we let go of the fear of judgment, we create space for innovation, new ideas, and fresh perspectives. Authenticity, on the other hand, emerges when we stop trying to fit into molds created by others and start embracing who we truly are. But how do we let go of shame and fully embrace vulnerability? It begins with self-compassion. We must learn to be kind to ourselves, to accept our imperfections, and to recognize that we are enough just as we are. Self-compassion creates a foundation of inner strength that allows us to navigate the challenges of vulnerability without being consumed by fear or shame. When we treat ourselves with understanding and patience, we give ourselves permission to take risks and make mistakes, to be human. Vulnerability also involves a willingness to connect with others on a deeper level. This means having honest conversations, sharing our fears and dreams, and listening with empathy. When we are vulnerable, we give others the opportunity to see us for who we truly are, and in doing so, we invite them to do the same. These moments of genuine connection are what make life meaningful. They remind us that we are not alone in our struggles, and that our experiences, no matter how unique, are part of the shared human journey. Taking the leap into vulnerability doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can start small. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend you've lost touch with, or admitting that you don't have all the answers in a work situation. These seemingly simple acts can have a profound impact, creating a ripple effect that inspires others to embrace vulnerability as well. As Breen often says, courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. Every step we take toward vulnerability strengthens our ability to live authentically and connect meaningfully. Another key aspect of embracing vulnerability is setting boundaries. While vulnerability is about openness, it's essential to share our stories and struggles with people who have earned our trust. Breen emphasizes that vulnerability without boundaries is not vulnerability at all. It's important to create a safe space where our openness is met with empathy and respect, rather than judgment or dismissal. So, what would happen if we all committed to embracing vulnerability? The possibilities are endless. We could create workplaces where innovation flourishes, relationships built on trust and empathy, and communities where everyone feels a sense of belonging. By letting go of shame and embracing vulnerability, we not only transform our own lives, but also contribute to a world that values authenticity and connection over perfection. As we conclude, I want to leave you with this challenge. Next time you're faced with the opportunity to be vulnerable, whether it's in a conversation, at work, or in your personal life, take the leap. Embrace the discomfort and trust that the rewards will far outweigh the risks. Remember, vulnerability is not about winning or losing. It's about having the courage to show up and be seen when you have no control over the outcome. With that said, thank you for joining me on this journey. Let's continue to explore, grow, and embrace the power of vulnerability together. Until next time, stay courageous and stay connected.